glad we're back, Janine. I'm
Woohoo!
I was just telling you earlier, I'm like, my head is going to explode with my
Yeah,
excitement
me too.
over this topic, because I feel like if we solve this one problem, all
I
the
know.
other problems get solved. So I'm just going
Absolutely.
to let you talk. Oh, before we jump into the topic, we should go over our action items for our last topic, which was
Yes.
the Byron Katie's The Work.
The work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just share my one quick experience, and then you can. So I did it one time because I had one thing that came up that was
Yeah.
huge and that just kind of rocked my world. And it was a situation where I felt that somebody was misunderstanding me and kind of judging me in this negative light. And it rocked my world. Like, it's been a long time since something like this really shook me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do the work on it. So I actually used the app version of it, of the work. And I walked through what I love about, I don't know if you can see this, but this is
I downloaded the app and I love it. I used it for
yeah.
my one thing that happened over the 2 weeks too. And I love this app. So you guys, we briefly touched on it last week. Arlena brought up the work app. And I highly recommend this thing. Although I will say it wasn't free. It was 99 cents. I don't know if when you bought it, it was free. Yeah. But then when I went to go get it, it was 99 cents, but it's 99 cents once. And I love this thing. So
Yeah, it even keeps, I had to put my glasses on. It has something that keeps your journal. So every time you go through it, it keeps a record of it. And I'm starting to see, even with this, I'm starting to see a pattern.
Yeah.
Right? But so anyway, I was really angry at somebody, and anger for me is a sign that my feelings are hurt. But it always presents as anger first for me. So I kind of just was like, I'm just going to start where I'm at. I'm angry, and here's why. I went through the whole thing. And by the end of it, I realized, like, kind of like what happened to you, that I was replaying a scene in my mind and feeling angry when nothing in my present reality was, nothing was threatening me. Like, I was physically, like, there was nobody sitting here with a gun to my head, or, like, I was fine. I was fine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But my mind kept going back to the situation, and I was feeling angry, and I was like, and I couldn't shake it, is the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So by going through the whole process, I was able to break that illusion that something was happening. And like, nobody has, because this gal didn't understand me. I thought there was going to be some negative consequence or whatever. And then I actually also used the E plus R equals O. It's like knowing that all this stuff is like working together. And I was like,
totally.
Here's the event that happened. I was not able to control my initial emotional response to it, but I controlled my reaction to it. And you pointed out that, even though my initial reaction wasn't positive, that I didn't react, and I took some time to process, and I finally reached out with another email. I was very detached, like, and I wasn't angry anymore, but I did need to address it so that I wasn't betraying myself. Like, it felt like staying silent felt like self-betrayal, and I really did not want to address it. But I did, and I thought I had to call her, and someone's like, why call her? Just send her an email and just be friendly and professional and clarify or whatever. So I sent the email, and then I got the result that I wanted anyway.
Oh, you did? Oh, good. Okay.
I did. It was about this, a guest episode that they didn't want me to release initially. And so now I got the green light. And so
good. Okay.
So now I got the green light. And it was so interesting because I had to process my feelings and detach emotionally. But because we're doing this work, even though I was like, okay, if it never sees the light of day, that's fine. Like, I'm completely detached from the outcome.
I love that.
And I got the outcome I wanted anyway.
And you got the outcome you wanted anyways. And that's why I love this and I was saying this last week as we were doing it, the work of Byron Katie, I've heard of for a long time and could never really like get it until we went over it that second time. And it's probably like one of the most powerful mindset work motivational like tools or work tools that a human being could use. You know what I mean? Like even when we were talking about, you know, the biggest thing for me has been historically the stuff with Skylar and lying. And when I said to you, you know, the flip, did I lie to him? At first it feels like no, but then it's like, of course I did. I lied to him every day as well, as though he was okay.
Yeah.
I was lying too. We were both creating this scenario where today's the day you stop with zero consequences.
Yeah.
Today's the day you stop. The first time in history an addict stops with no consequences. It's today. I don't need to kick you out. You know, walk the dog. You know, we're totally lying. I'm lying too. And I love that. But and it makes sense to me that you were able to be completely detached.
And what's crazy is the energy shift, right?
Yes.
All the law of attraction, manifestation stuff is always saying one thing: live in the energy that you want to be in. Right?
Yeah.
It's like the act as if.
Totally.
Like feel the feelings as if it's already happened.
Yes.
So, like it, and the key is detachment, surrender. Like I swear, surrender is such a powerful tool.
And for me, a lot of it is, and this is probably how I surrender. The accountability piece for me is how I surrender. When I take ownership, is how I let go, because then I'm not mad at the person anymore, because I'm like, well, I'm doing it too, right? Like with him, the only way I got out of the anger about the money was my keen awareness that I have also severely misspent our funds, you know, like a lot. So, you know, not that much.
We're working on it.
As him, but a lot, you know what I mean? Like I could have made different choices here. I put my, you know, appearance things first. But so for me, taking on the accountability piece, how am I also involved in this, is a huge part of my ability to release. And her work does that for me when you flip it, you know. That also is a great segue into today, which is what's my worth out despite rejection, right? Which is our whole topic today, which I'm so excited about. Arlena is so excited about this one too. When you sent me back the polo yesterday, so Arlena texted me and was like, what's the topic tomorrow? We go back and forth. And I was like, I'm going to send you a polo right now. Went over it. And then she sent me a polo back and she was like, this is why you're my co-host. I love you. This is a great idea. This is why you're the co-host. And I was so happy.
Oh my God, I keep coming back to this idea. And let me just tell you a little story, because I was working with somebody, client, and I was like, it's okay to ask for help. And somehow I seem to attract people just like me, hyper independent, don't want to ask for help, workaholic, does too much, right? I was working with this lady and I was like, you know what? We can ask for help. Like I just call it God. We can ask God for help, the universe, source, whatever. We can ask for help. But the trick is then we have to listen. We have to listen for the help, right? And so I was like, I should take my own damn advice, which is why I'm a self-help junkie, because I'm all about applying all the things. So I'm like, I need help. And it was about direction and purpose, because I have too many things to do. It's like Peter Drucker, this famous management guy, was like, if you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any. It's like, oh, that is so me. I have like 10 priorities. If you have more than 3, you don't have any. How can you have 10 priorities? Then that's not what that word means.
Right.
I do not think you think it means.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then you were like, oh, I have this, let's do the worthy, Jamie Kern Lima and then I was like, I'm going to listen to another episode and I listened to one with Oprah, and she talks about rejection as God's protection. She talks about, God hiding your worth from the people that you're not meant to, they're not part of your destiny. And I thought about all the times when I started projects and they didn't go well.
Right.
And I'm super excited about this one.
Yeah, totally.
And then they were talking about, you can't have an authentic relationship with somebody if you're not showing up as who you really are, which is when you know your worth, you show up as you are, right?
Yes.
Kind of
Yes.
dovetails on the, all the other episodes that we've been doing. So I am just like, the point has been driven home that the work is about developing your, like, getting in touch and feeling and knowing to your core what your worth is.
Yes.
Yes.
Which
So
is so hard to do. And she has a great example. So the topic today, guys, is as Arlena just referenced, Jamie. No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
Like, yeah, that's it. So wait, Jamie Kern Lima?
Mm-hmm.
Or is her name? Okay, all right. I keep saying it wrong. So, which is not okay. Jamie Kern Lima. So, but I love that she uses 3 names, because I've been trying to use 3 names forever. I've been trying to be Janine Coulter Lindgren, and then people just mess it up, because I want to be able to use my name, my Coulter name, my father's name, when I do things, because, and this is a whole other side, but
let's stay focused.
Yeah, right. Janine Lindgren has a good life. Janine Lindgren scored. Janine Coulter struggled. And Janine Coulter built the experience. I sound like my mom. So when I put out articles about my recovery and professional stuff, I'm like, no, Janine Coulter wrote this fucking story. Janine Lindgren's got a cushy life with a cute husband and a nice house. Janine Coulter earned this. So I try to do all 3 of them. And then forever, most people just were putting Lindgren. And so when you Google my name, not all of my stuff comes up. And so I'm just using Coulter professionally, because I'm like, no, I owe it to the woman that I was. I didn't get married till I was 39. And it's like, so, you know what I mean? It's like, I owe it to that woman to put the credit in her name. You know what I mean? But again, that's just my mom talking.
Yeah, and you and I keep messing up Jamie Kern Lima's name, so we're like,
yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But tell me, tell me who Jamie is.
So Jamie developed It Cosmetics, the brand, which I use, actually. I use her CC cream. I love it. So she developed It Cosmetics, and her story is that she had really bad rosacea and was constantly looking for makeup that would work with her rosacea and wouldn't crack and peel. And she was in incredibly high pressure situations. She was on TV. It sounds like maybe she was a news anchor. Yeah. And they would tell her, she could hear in her earpiece, something's on your face, something's on your face, something's on your face, as she's trying to speak and do the story. And she knew what it was her rosacea was crumbling her makeup. And she would go like this and look down, and there would be like flakes of skin on her notes and her redness showing through, and she's on camera. So she developed this brand of makeup that would work with rosacea. And she was in this really high pressure situation where they allowed her to go on QVC. She got the opportunity to go on QVC and sell her makeup.
Rejected many, many times. They rejected her so many times.
And she also made the choice, against her marketing team's advisement, to use women that looked more natural, as well as herself, and have her skin actually showing and their skin actually showing. And she had been told by a high executive that, I'm not going to pick up this brand from you, because frankly, I don't think women are going to buy makeup from someone who looks like you. You said that to her face. And in the face of that, she still went on QVC, took the chance on her own idea, took her makeup off, showed her skin. It sold out in 10 minutes. She ended up selling her brand for $1 billion.
1.2. 1.2.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, on the Oprah interview, and I was like, why is everybody dropping the point? I know, like, everybody is dropping the 0.2.
Right. Yeah, see, I hadn't even heard that. So $1 billion to Revlon, and that executive who said no one will buy makeup from someone like you. Yeah. But I really value, I'd love to know who that executive is. He's obviously done the work too. He emailed her and said, I saw your deal. Congratulations. I was wrong. Which for some billionaire, ad exec dude to say is cool. Like, I'm like, that guy must be in recovery or something. You know what I mean? Like, that guy's working. He has a therapist. That's great. So anyway, and she kind of said the same thing. She was like, I can't, but usually people, you don't hear from them later saying that, you know what I mean? So anyways, but despite all of that, despite all of that, and this is the example that she uses, she met Oprah somehow, and she grew up watching Oprah on TV and felt like Oprah was her personal mentor when she was a
Me
little
too.
kid. And yeah. And she met Oprah, and Oprah gave her her phone number,
Her personal.
and she didn't call her for 4 years because she felt, why? Not worthy. And so the philosophy she's developed in all of this, I love, which is that we can have confidence based on something like selling our company for $1 billion, $1.2 billion, but not feel worthy enough to possibly face rejection. And that's a great example. I was just talking about my friend. I actually have a lot of confidence with my teaching. I'm a really good spin teacher. I get accolades from people. I'm really proud of the business that I built with my hands, and we sold it during COVID for double what we paid. I'm so proud of that. I have confidence around that. But that rejection from that girl destroyed me. Why? And this is what Jamie talks about. We can have confidence based on our achievements, but not actually feel worthy inherently as a human being. Do I have worth just for simply existing? Despite my achievements, despite the roles that I play, despite my outward appearance, do I have self-worth? Do I believe that I inherently, as a human being, deserve a seat at any table? And most people don't really feel that way. And I would have thought maybe I did, but obviously I don't. I'm so attached to this idea of rejection. And then what does that cost us beyond just the initial, I was like hurt when I heard that? It costs us way more than that. Because I could maybe even live with that, right? Like, I'm used to having my feelings. I could live with that. But what I can't live with is this. It prevents us from possible growth in our lives because we don't want to try things or put ourselves out there because we've attached our worth to the rejection. So say there's a guest I want to have on my show.
Yeah.
I'm terrified to ask anyone to be on my show. Why? Why would I be terrified? Because if they say no, I believe that rejection is my worth. And so she writes this book about the difference between the two. And then I've been working on stuff this week to how do we put that into practice, partially with what she offered. And then I've got some ideas too, based on her philosophies and principles. How can we in fact develop self-worth? So the way, go ahead. Yeah, of course.
Real quick, because I just wanted to share that I recently did some trauma therapy, and after the process, the facilitator, we were kind of debriefing, and he's like, you know what? You kept apologizing for just existing. You kept apologizing. You kept checking in to see if you were okay. You kept checking in with us, and during the process.
Yeah.
And then when he told me, he goes, you kept apologizing for just existing. And the way he said it, and as vulnerable as I was like, that hit me so hard. And I had to go back and ask why. Where did I get this? And I'm not disparaging my parents, but I think it's important to acknowledge reality. I think it's important to acknowledge what actually happened. And I was emotionally neglected. I had food, I had shelter, but I was not safe. I recalled during that experience, scenarios where I almost died. And my mom used to tell these stories as if they were funny. And there's this idea that we receive information with the energy that it's delivered. So it didn't connect for me that how unsafe I was when I was growing up because my mom was busy and she was doing other things. Like I almost drowned in a pool one time as a baby. And she would tell this story. She goes, yeah, you were standing right next to me on the steps and you had gone off the steps and you were drowning. And I was talking to somebody, and my uncle, who was only 10 years older than me, so he was probably like 11 or 12, reached down and grabbed me by the hair and pulled me out. And he's like, Ida, your daughter's drowning. And the way she tells the story is funny. So I didn't get them. It didn't connect in my soul that I almost fucking died.
Yeah.
Because my mom neglected me. Shit. Like she
Right.
wasn't paying attention. Like that's neglect.
Right.
And after trauma therapy, it was like I had all these situations that I could point to where I almost died. So I have this deep, hardwired belief that I'm not safe
Yeah.
and that I'm not like my emotional needs are not like I'm not worthy. And I
Right.
think that's why this is all hitting me so hard. You know, it's like we ask God for direction and then we have to listen. Like, what is the answer? And it's so interesting. Then you bring this topic up of, oh, it's
Yeah.
because we're not worthy. And this is
Yeah.
why I think it's hitting me to my core, is because when I was growing up, I, my feelings were not important.
Right. I think too that, like you said, it's not disparaging our parents to acknowledge that there were simply some things that, no one's perfect. Like, I spoken to you so many times about, I think my parents did such a good job. We were just saying off
Yeah.
air, like they've left this legacy that there's no evidence of other than hopefully I'm
You're
going to
gonna
write a
fix that.
book.
You're gonna fix that.
Yeah. But even still, as you say that, I I felt like I really wanted my dad's respect and attention, and
Mm,
it was attached to, and he certainly didn't mean to do this. It was attached to being cool and funny,
mm, yeah.
because he's cool and funny. And I really tried to be cool and funny. And it definitely, if a joke didn't land with him, I felt really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same kind of but our worth often is attached to something from our
Yeah.
parents, right? And so it happens with everyone. This idea that our worth is attached to something, to our ability to perform or to
Perform.
achieve,
Achieve.
you
Yeah.
know
That's
and yeah, and I think that that's just human nature with everyone. It was definitely attached to my mom a little bit, but not really with my academics. They mattered to her, but not, I felt very valued by my mom, but like the achievement for my academics was definitely important. Were you gonna say something?
I was going to say that if you learn the lesson of my value, my worth is tied to my achievement, then it is generalized over
Right,
every
yes, across all things. Yeah, exactly,
all thing,
exactly.
right? Like you were talking about, and it sounded very familiar when you described the situation with that gal that was like, oh, she thought we were better friends than we were. It was like it didn't land. And it was, I was like, oh, that sounds familiar from when, like, you were saying, like, if I told a joke and it didn't land, you felt
Yeah,
rejected in some way. Like it's some sort of shame or
yeah.
humiliation, like your worth wasn't, like, she didn't see your worth, your dad didn't see your worth, it didn't perform.
Well, it's all attached to being cool. I
Yeah.
wanted to be the cool girl,
Yeah.
and my sponsor pointed that out to me once. That's definitely a pattern for me that I
Yeah.
kind of didn't really think about till right now, that attaching it to the thing with my dad. That's maybe where this comes from.
Yeah.
Everywhere I've always wanted to be, there's always like 3 or 4 coolest girls in school, or later in life in my rehabs. There was cool girls in rehab, and I wanted to be in the cool girl group. And I
Yeah.
was always like, have you seen the movie Mean Girls?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure you've seen it. Okay. So
Yeah.
there's Regina George
Yeah.
and the other two. And then there's Lindsay Lohan, who's
Yeah.
sort of in the group. I have been the Lindsay Lohan of every school and rehab I've ever been to. I'm sort of in it, but not really. I'm the
Yeah.
fourth, but not really. You know what I mean?
I
And
think
like I was that at my studio too, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
such
just,
a
and like I'm but I
basic.
think it's attached to that idea from my dad that I had to be cool and I had to be funny to really get his value. And not really. If he heard me say this, he would be horrified. He'd be like, Nina, I love you. You're the coolest person I've ever known. I value your authenticity. He would say all that to me.
Yeah.
But he has his own psyche and his own belief systems and values, and he probably thinks he has to be cool and funny. And you know what I mean? It just goes on and on and on. And this is how the cycle happens. No one's at fault. Nothing is malicious. It's just how it is.
And this is how beliefs work. This is how subconscious beliefs work, is we learn something in childhood and then we recreate it over and over and over again.
Right.
Like you keep
Right.
having the same experience, which means you're the
Yeah.
common denominator, which means this is your limiting belief. It has nothing to do, it's your projection out onto
Right.
reality. It's like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Right.
right? And it's that idea that we recreate the same thing, and it's reinforcing a belief. It's like we look for the evidence to support our belief.
Right.
And so the work
Right.
really is to unravel all that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what and that's why a book like this is so important. If we can see that this is a pattern, this is something I'm doing, how do I stop this? I stop this by developing my idea of my own inherent worth, unrelated to someone else's rejection or acceptance of me. And that's why I love this. I love this book, and I love that she wrote this. Yeah. And so
by the way,
she's got two
Worthy. Yeah. I don't think
Worthy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Worthy. And I love that she broke this down in a couple of different ways. And at the top, I have something that really resonated with me that she was talking about in the interview with Oprah. And guys, I highly recommend, in addition to getting the book, the episode that Arlena and I are both referencing is the Oprah Super Soul with her, which is just 30 minutes, and it's packed with her best info, I think, because I listened to her for hours on some other interviews, and her episode with Oprah is just really powerful. So if nothing else, this isn't one of the official tasks this week, but I would add Oprah Super Soul, Jamie Lima Kern to your list. Good God, Janine. Jamie Kern Lima.
You need to stick with two.
Yeah, right? I know. Jamie Kern Lima. Okay, so
the Oprah interview had the action items, which and
it did.
Since we're doing this, now I'm always listening for what are the actions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
so
avails us nothing. It's
exactly. It's the tasks, or it's the action. So one of the things that they said in the Oprah interview, which is actually something that Oprah has said that Jamie was referencing, was your legacy. People think of their legacy as their name on a building or a business they left behind, like Steve Jobs. What a legacy, right? You think. But your legacy is the lives you touch.
Yeah.
And the impact you leave on people. One of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes ever is, people will forget what you said and people will forget what you did, but they will never forget the way you made them feel.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful legacy. And if I look at it like that, I've touched a lot of lives through my spin classes and words, and the podcast, even right. And like, that's such and for me, that idea is an entryway into belief about the worth, because it's not about what I've bought or what I look like. It's about how I've made people feel. Yeah. And that is based on my inherent character traits and talents that I was born with, right? Mm-hmm. We all have these inherent talents and these inherent traits that make us unique and individuals. Mm-hmm. And that's how we actually leave our legacy, is the imprint of those values. And we didn't have to earn those. We arrived with those. Those aren't based on achievement. And so just that idea, your legacy is the lives you touch, I think is such a great entry point into the action. And the primary foundational point for this for her is, whatever you feel when you think of a rejection is your definition of rejection. That's how you see it always. Yeah. What was mine?
Yeah. Sorry, I probably cut you off too soon, but she was like, when you think about a scene, is that where you're going with this? Think about it. Yeah. And you reject it. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the way she gets us there is, she says, think about a time when you felt rejected. Like, just remember one most recently. And so I want you guys listening to remember a time recently when you were rejected. And so for me, it was hearing my friend, I guess not, my old employee, say, I feel bad. I think Janine thought we were closer than we were. That obviously and the feelings I feel are like embarrassment and like some shame, mostly just embarrassment, like this overwhelming humiliation. Really? Oh, that's so icky. I thought we were friends, but we weren't. That's humiliating. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, that's how I feel. And then her point from that is, okay, that's your definition of rejection, is humiliation. And that's where you live, not taking risks or trying new things. How do we get out of that? We have to redefine what rejection really means. And this is what she suggests to do. And I love this idea. And I want you guys to do this too. Well, this is going to be one of the tasks, but even as I'm saying this, think about this as well. Your rejection, a recent rejection. Oh my gosh, how did that feel? We got to get out of that cycle and look at rejection in a different way. And she says, and I've heard this before.
So this is one of the four
rejection. Yes. Rejection is protection. And that sounds great, rhymes and everything, but let's internalize this. And I want you guys, as you're listening, to think of a few times, and you're going to get into this more with the tasks, that rejection actually was protection for you. And so for me, and I want to give a few examples, my whole LA thing, man, like trying to be a famous actress, thank God that didn't happen. No. I would be dead because I was already I showed up as a gnarly drug addict already. If I had also had a bunch of money and people wanting to like kiss my ass, I would have died. There wasn't enough cocaine on earth for me at 22, 23. I would have moved to Colombia with my first movie deal money and died there in a hut in the hills. There wasn't enough cocaine to make me happy. And so I would have just died if I'd had the money. I only lived because I was broke. That was good. And then also my last boyfriend when I was there, that was a lot of heartbreak for me. And my mom, it's one of the only things she ever said to me that was like, he was breaking up with me, which was my fault because I wouldn't stop doing cocaine because there was not enough cocaine on earth to make me happy, of course. But I wanted to, not lose this guy. And I was visiting my mom and he had decided to move to France to get away from me. And I was going to move to San Diego. And I was like, dude, you're living in LA. I'm going to live in San Diego. You don't need to leave the country. And he was like, no, I think I do. I think if you're within 200 miles of me, I'll continue to be in this dynamic with you. Which he was right. He was a lot older than me. He was like 40 when this was happening. And I was 27 or something. And he was right, of course. He'd already had a long-term relationship. He knew better. He was right. But I was like, moving to France feels extreme. I'm not that bad. But obviously I am. And I was visiting my mom and we were cleaning her house because she was moving and she listens to Jimmy Buffett when she cleans. My mom cleans like once every 2 months and she blasts Jimmy Buffett and does the whole thing. And that every song that came on, one of them was he went to Paris to find all the answers or whatever. And I just stopped and looked at her and she ran over to her CD player to skip the song. And I was like, Mom! And she was like, I wasn't thinking that exact song was going to come on. And I was like, what do you really think about me losing him? And she was like, I mean, I think he was probably the love of your life. I wish you could have stopped doing drugs. And then immediately, I know. And then immediately she was like, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. And I was like, okay, fine. Obviously, he was not. I've seen that guy on Facebook over the years. I'm very glad we did not end up getting married or anything. Like, I'm so glad. But I was so brokenhearted. It was one of the most painful times of my life. Like, I'm sure everyone listening has had heartbreak. Every night before I went to bed, he was my last thought. When I opened my eyes, he was my first thought. He's not here. He's not here. Every night, every morning, every night, every morning. Bad heartache. And thank God, though. Good Lord. Like, Skylar is the best husband for me ever. You know what I mean? And also my journey really needed to continue. My journey really needed to continue with me coming off of this heartbreak that was directly related to my drug use for me to become the full version of myself, which is a sober person. Right. And so, and then I have one last one that was more recent. My business that I own, Studio Cybrid, when it was the business before mine, they were talking about making me a partner. And I wanted to be a partner with them so bad. It's actually my current boss and friend, Jana. And I really wanted to own the studio with them so bad. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a way for me to be a business owner with just sweat equity because I don't have any money. Like, I really want a piece of this LLC. I want to be a business owner. I want to be a part of this. And they just kept bringing deals that weren't good at all. it was like 5% of profits. Plus I stopped getting paid. It was crap. And I had to wrestle with this decision to turn down the offer to own a studio as a third partner of 5% of the LLC, right? And I said no. And I was so devastated for months that I had made the wrong choice. They didn't end up getting sued, but it was close. It was really close. And I ended up owning it outright at 100% ownership, or 50-50 with my husband. It became Cybrid later. And thank God I didn't go into it with them on that LLC, because I made it way better. Right. So that was protection as well. And my reason in giving all of these examples, and I'm sure you've got some as well, is that, and I want you guys, as you're thinking, if we can cognitively associate more rejection with protection, then we can shift our current feelings around it and put ourselves out for rejection more, right? Like if there's someone I want to ask on the podcast, can I go into it believing if they say no, it's protection anyways? Maybe they would have been a bad guest. Oof. I actually just dodged a gnarly bullet with a guest, I think, that I was going to interview. And then she canceled that morning. This person's very problematic. Yeah, very problematic. I kind of feel bad, but I probably don't need to be doing this interview. So shifting our ideas around rejection. And my favorite tool as a human trying to develop, grow, and change is to use our own past life experience as the evidence. Your own past life experience. And that's why probably most of my tasks as we go through the show will often be that, look back to a time in your life when rejection was in fact protection. And so can we make the leap? Can we conclude that if it's happened before, it could be happening again, even if it's happening in the moment?
That's actually one of the R's, is revisit. So it's reveal, redefine, revisit, and revel.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Celebrating the wins kind of thing.
Yeah. Thank God I wasn't attached to that LLC. Dude, they were in trouble. And if I had been attached to it, they got out of it because they closed it. Okay. If I had been attached to it, we wouldn't have closed it. It would have been open. There wouldn't have been a way to get out. So anyway, yeah. So exactly. So what were they again? What was the first one?
Reveal? They were reveal.
So what was the situation?
Yeah. And then redefine. I think the reveal was the question. It's like, think about, like when you said, think about a time when you were rejected. I think that's the reveal.
Okay. Because those 4 R's I didn't write down in order. You're right. Oprah goes over them in order.
Yeah. Reveal, redefine, revisit, and revel. And my first thought when she asks the question, think about the time you were rejected and what was your first thought? My first word was loser, which is humiliating.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. Like, and then she asked that of that guy from Skinny Confidential, and he said next. Like he is so.
Oh, really?
Yes, he is.
He wouldn't answer?
No, he said that's his thought because. Like when he tries to get guests on the show.
Oh, well, that's because he's mastered this. That guy.
He's mastered this, and their show is widely successful.
Yeah, so, dude, those two, they're only 36. That couple is 36. And they have changed the space in podcasting. I know, you're annoyed, huh? Aren't you annoyed? Fine.
I'm not annoyed.
They also got in really early. They were like 28 when they started their show together. They were one of the first podcasts ever. So there was literally like maybe 30. I mean, they were early. The Skinny Confidential has 1,000 episodes. They've been doing this for like 8 years, long time.
Okay, mine is almost 8 years. So.
Oh, then longer. Because you started, when did you start?
So I started in 2016, and I thought I was.
Oh, you were early too. You were definitely early, right?
To the game, because there's this guy, is it Dave Jackson or Dean Jackson? He was doing it in the early 2000s. So podcasting's been around for a long while, but
it's been around for a while. But in terms of like the boon, you know what I mean? Like getting it, like Dopey started in 2015. He was the first funny recovery podcast. You know what I mean? Like those were still kind of early years, but they would have gotten in even before that. Do you know what I mean? Like they were doing it before, most people knew. But he has mastered that.
Yeah. So the idea is about changing your relationship with rejection based on understanding your worthiness. And
Right.
this is one of the reasons why this struck me so hard is because they asked that question, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And I'm like, oh my God, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? If I just took, like, because I've been dragging my feet on a few things out of fear and knowing I was afraid, but not knowing how to solve it. Right. And I've been
Right.
praying for guidance. Like I'll be the
Right.
one who talks about spirituality and God and all that stuff. And I'll just come right out and say, I've been asking for guidance. And I'm like, okay, I really need to listen. And it's so interesting that I was like, okay, I'm really going to focus on listening. And what keeps coming up in my purview are these ideas about worthiness, and I didn't know it until you brought it up, how it was tied to rejection.
Right.
I
Yes.
am not reaching my goals because I am stuck on feeling rejected, not knowing how to get past it. And I feel like this
Right.
is it. This is like
It
the cup of life for me.
totally. Totally. So these are our tasks to
Okay.
get there. So I highly recommend listening to the Oprah episode, right? The Super Soul, not necessarily a task, but I recommend it. Write down. So this is the first task. When was rejection protection for you? As many as you can think of. So like for me, I just gave those examples kind of off the top of my head, that X where it didn't work out, acting in general,
Yeah.
you know,
Why?
the LLC, and
I think
you know
everybody
what?
I think everybody has a past relationship they can identify as a
For
phew.
sure. Yeah, that'll be an easy one. That'll probably be an easy one,
Dodging a bullet.
And you know what? I just thought of this today. I wasn't really going to share this, but I might as
Ooh,
well.
give it up, girl.
The most painful rejection, right, in my life has been my dad. After he got remarried, our relationship really changed for a little while. Actually, our relationship didn't change at all, but I didn't see him that much anymore. We still kind of just never did, me and my brother. I talk to him all the time. He's the primary source of like nurturing and encouragement in my life. And especially during COVID, we got really close again. But he definitely changed his relationship with us in terms of how he showed up physically or in any, you know what I mean, in any way, out beyond emotional, vocal support. And that's been hard. And today I thought, you know what though? He changed a lot after he got remarried. His beliefs, he's super, super, super conservative now. He went back to the Catholic Church and changed in like a lot of ways. And when I was growing up, I remember there was this one time we lived in the Philippines and I was wearing two different, remember jelly shoes, the clear shoes?
Yeah.
Okay. Love jellies. And I had one clear one on and one blue one on. And I was trying to hide my blue shoe from him. And he was taking me to school. And he was like, okay, so just so you know, I see that you've got two different shoes on. I can see you've got your other one. And it's okay with me. My favorite thing about you is how unique and different you are. And I think it's cool you want to wear two different shoes to school. You don't ever have to hide anything like that from me. I love how different you are. And in high school once, so I started dressing really outlandishly my last year of high school. By outlandish, I mean very promiscuous looking and revealing. And I was wearing a leather mini dress and like fishnets and knee-high leather boots.
Oh.
No, not to school.
Oh.
Like it was Valentine's Day, my senior year, and my friend Carrie and I were going somewhere. And we stopped by my dad. So my dad had moved out that year and we stopped by his apartment for me to say hi or something. And I was wearing that. And I didn't think twice about it. And neither did he. I got in my car and Carrie was like, I can't believe your dad didn't say anything just now. And I was like, about what? And she was like, your outfit. And I was like, oh, he doesn't care. You look like a hooker. And I was like, oh, he doesn't care. And he didn't. Ever. Yeah. Ever. No matter what I did with my appearance, nothing. He took me to get a belly button ring when I was like 15 or 16 because he didn't want me to sneak and do it. So he took me himself to Little 5 Points in Atlanta, held my hand. They lifted my shirt up and popped my belly button at 15 years old. That's like kind of a sexy thing. And I remember I felt a drop of something on my face and I looked up and he had his eyes closed and he was sweating because he didn't want to see me get hurt. This is who he was. That's who raised me. That's how I am the way that I am. Now cut to, I'm sending wedding dresses to him. And I sent him a Katie May wedding dress that was open in the back. And he called me and he said, hey, I need you to be a little modest with your choices. And I thought he meant money. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this one. I was going to buy my dress. You've given me the budget. And he was like, no, modest with skin. You can almost see her rear end. And I was like, oh. And I looked at the picture and I was like, I guess it's a little low. Anyways, my point is he changed a lot later. And I'm really glad I got the pre-42-year-old version of him.
Right.
And I'm so influenced by him that if I'd been around him more, I wonder if it would have chipped away at me. And I only just thought of this for the first time, like today, actually, because I've never been able to find a rejection as protection for that. No, it's not. I need him. But in that sense, I'm really glad that I never, because maybe I would have started to like change my politics or change my beliefs over time under his influence. And I'm really glad that I didn't. I wouldn't have wanted to get caught up in that old school cowboy way of living. Give me a break.
Or it would have changed your opinion about yourself in the sense that if he was commenting on your appearance
right
all the time, it would have created a bunch of self-doubt, which you didn't have.
Right. Yeah, totally. Exactly. So anyways, and that's a reach for me. That's probably something I'll be working on my entire life, is that dynamic with him and loving him so much. And, I'm sure, but like, so that feels like a bit of a reach, but it's still kind of true. Do you know what I mean? Like in that way, it could have been
a reach. Like the absence of your father at any age is still, it's still painful.
I mean, a reach to think that that would be a good thing, not being around him because of the clothes.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm building a case slowly. You know what I mean? Slowly. Exhibit A.
We're doing these exercises over a 2-week period so that ideas have time to marinate and more will come up as you work with these ideas.
So, right, totally.
Oh my gosh, and I can tell you stories too about like I was dating this guy who I thought was my ideal because he looked a certain way. And I was secretly planning our wedding behind his back. Like I was secretly buying wedding magazines and I created a folder and I was putting all these ideas. I had an idea folder and I was like, I'm going to manifest. I didn't know that I was doing that, but I was like, I'm going to manifest this shit. And I am so glad that didn't work out for so many reasons. Like I have also, I've been with my husband almost 30 years and a lot has happened in the last 30 years. And I see that guy and he is like frozen in time. Like he was a bodybuilder and that was his passion, his obsession to the exclusion of everything else. Like he got divorced. He has 2 girls that moved away that he like he didn't raise them. And he's still posting pictures about bodybuilding. It's like he has a singular interest.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Nothing else.
And I'm sure you were devastated when it didn't work out, right?
I was crushed.
Did he find your idea folder and freak out?
No, he never found it, but I remember showing it to somebody and they asked me about it later. They were like, oh, I remember you were planning your wedding. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was never engaged. I completely forgot about it.
That's awesome.
His mom hated me. Oh my God, his mom hated me. It was terrible.
So
the most perfect husband. We were just talking about this night. We were like, there's no way
I'm
married to anybody but him. We are.
Yeah, I don't think I could. Yeah, I don't think I could be married to anybody other than Skylar either. Yeah. He's perfect for me in so many ways. He doesn't want. He's happy. Yeah, same thing. And I was really sad about this guy. So writing down. Go back. And what were some rejections that really worked out for you in the end? Write those down. Remember those. And so what we're doing with that is hopefully, again, with, the cognitive connection, starting to change our relationship with rejection when we can see. And it's also the E plus R equals O.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. When you look back, the E plus R equals O gives us this the reframe. Yeah. And then, so the second task.
And redefine.
Yeah. And the second task is to write down, ideally 10, but I don't want to give minimums or anything like that. But if we can, 10, and I'll attach a worksheet in the Patreon of a list of these to give people examples, 10 traits, character traits that you have that are not related to your achievements, roles, or appearance. So for me, it would not be, I'm a good spin teacher, because that's related to my achievements. Or I'm a good mom. That would be related to a role. I mean, I'm not a mom, but you know what I mean? So not related to roles, appearances, or achievements. So things like, I am empathetic. I'm really empathetic. I can always see somebody else's point of view, really always, I have integrity with money. Even when I was bartending, if somebody left too much money and they were drunk, I would give it back to them. The things that make you feel good about yourself that are not related to, I finished my master's degree at 24. That's a cool thing, but not that, right? So like things that you just were, that are inherently a part of you, at least 10, if you can. And then in that same task is journal about those daily. Where am I seeing these in my life? Because we're building the case. I have worth unrelated to outside validation, external validation. I was kind today. I was honest today. Whatever your things are.
Is that the third thing? Right.
No, that's all. That's the second is just the writing. Because I've
identify 10 traits and write about that. Where am I seeing these traits daily?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
And then the third one is, this one's hard. The third one is, do something where you might get rejected. Ask what's something you need to do right now. Try it. Send the email. Send the pitch letter.
Yeah.
Actually put this thing into action.
Yeah. I'm
gonna pitch a guest.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. So it was so interesting. When Jamie was talking about how she redefined it, she redefined rejection as I'm one of the brave ones, because she put herself in a position to be rejected, and that was victory. And I thought that was really interesting. I
love that too. Yeah.
And like that guy, whenever he gets rejected, he's like, next. Like there's so much abundance out in the universe that he's not going to get hung up on this one. He said something to the effect of, I get rejected all the time. And it's just funny because I spent 10 years in sales, in tech sales in Silicon Valley, where it was my job to cold call and prospect. And, I'd be calling 100 people a day, making 100 phone calls. And that was constant rejection. I was like, gosh, but it wasn't personal because it was work.
Right.
It wasn't
totally
for money for me personally. It was
totally.
It was work. I was in the corporate world, very like sterile and unemotional. But to ask for something like inviting a guest or pitching myself as a guest, or whatever, like that is personal.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
So if I could, it's like, what would I do if I had no fear of rejection or failure? I was like, oh my God. The people I would invite to be a guest, or the places I would pitch myself,
right?
As a story, in mainstream media or on other podcasts. I was like, oh my God, what wouldn't I do?
Limitless.
I was thinking, if I pitched myself to 100 places, one of them's got to pop. What if 10, and what if 10 of them did? And what if one of those 10 was life changing?
Right.
Right.
How often do you, this is unrelated, how often do you pitch to other podcasts?
Almost.
I don't have a real system with it.
Almost never, because I've been doing the podcast for almost 8 years. So people pitch me like,
okay.
And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my belief, but I was like, people pitch me. Even that interview I got with Elizabeth Gilbert, I was sitting, all I did was tell her I had a podcast, and she invited herself on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. And then she joked about it. She goes, oh my God, I just totally invited myself onto your podcast. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. How's that episode doing?
It's doing awesome. But you know what? The one that floored me was after I did my hypnosis certification. I did hypnosis as a client, and it changed my life. And I was like, I have to do this as a service to my clients, hypnosis. because it's all about rewiring your subconscious
Yeah.
mind and your. So I'm definitely going to do some hypnosis. I'm going to create a downloadable audio about
Okay.
improving your self, knowing and feeling your self-worth in the present moment.
Okay.
I'm going to do a downloadable audio for that.
Okay.
But so I'm in this world of studying teachers of hypnosis and all that stuff. And I get an email, and it's from fucking Dr. David Spiegel's team. And he is at Stanford. He was the chief of mental health for like 40 years. He has been on the board that decides the DSM-5,
Oh, wow.
the diagnostical manual that all healthcare providers use to determine, diagnose mental illness. I mean, and he's still at Stanford. He still sees me. The list of his, Huberman has had him on multiple times, Andrew Huberman. I mean, I hold this guy in such high regard, and then I get this email from his team. They were pitching him as a guest to me.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Drug addict I'm just a podcast host. I'm no formal educate. Like, I went to junior college, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I don't have the credentials, and they were pitching him. Okay, so that blew my mind. So I don't know what it is, but people pitch themselves to me because I've been doing the podcast for so long.
Right. I actually met you as a guest.
Oh, sorry.
But that's interesting.
Totally went off. How often do I pitch myself again?
But I'm glad you shared that, because actually it shows, because you do a lot of manifesting. You put a lot of positive energy out into the world a lot. Like, you're a constant worker. Mm-hmm. And so it's actually cool to me that you just shared all that they pitched you. Because to me, that kind of makes sense. And it inspires me to start acting more like you with the show. Do you know what I mean? So I'm actually glad that you just shared that.
Thank you. So I'm not embarrassed. But
no,
I actually have rarely pitched myself. Like, I had this guy on my podcast recently. While he was on, I was like, hey, I would love it if you had me on your podcast. And the energy wasn't right when I was interviewing him. Like, I'm like, I don't know why you don't love me. Like, like we should be friends. We should be friends. Like, I'm feeling the connection here. What is happening? I think maybe I was a little too excited to interview him. But at the end, I was like, picked myself as a guest, but I could feel that it wasn't landing. Like, I felt it.
Okay.
And I was like, whatever. I still sent him another email saying, hey, I just wanted to follow up, and here's what we can talk about. Crickets.
Oh, no.
Crickets. But now I'm thinking,
do it again.
You know, when she was, Jamie was talking about God will hide your worth to somebody who's not supposed to be part of your destiny. And I was like, oh, it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
That's if he's
interesting.
Than this guy who's it's amazing. I can't wait to see who's gonna have me on.
Yeah.
Because it's always,
you know what?
I have this belief that God says yes, not yet, or I have something better for you. And so I have a gal in my life who's always telling me this or something better. This or something better. And so if I remembered to think about the reframe, oh, this or something better. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Totally. Then we can put ourselves out for more things, you know?
Yeah. He says no. Next.
Next. I love that, because I love Michael Bosstick. I love that guy. He's like I think he's going to be the next, maybe not Steve Jobs, but he'll be really known in the industry of finance as well. I think he's done a lot for them and that company. He's the CEO of Dear Media, the person that was saying next on that show.
I know. Yeah. I didn't know he was.
Okay. Yeah. He's the CEO of Dear Media. He's the woman's husband.
Her co-host.
Her co-host. Yeah. Which is true. The brand was hers in the beginning. And then he's launched it into this giant network, and she still has all of her stuff too. She was probably definitely the moneymaker in the beginning, the rainmaker, but now he's making big moves. So it's been kind of cool to watch. I know, it's really cool.
It can happen for us too, and for anybody.
Of course, yeah. Okay. So, and then I was going to go over, I thought we could each share how we're going to set up these tasks for ourselves within the SMART framework, right?
SMART goals.
So for you guys to think about as well.
Should we say
specific? Yeah. What is it again?
Specific, measurable, actionable, reasonable, and time bound. So this is like where I have
2 weeks.
Yeah, over the next 2 weeks.
Oh.
So for me, I have to put everything on the calendar. It's like I have too much going on, and so I
Okay.
die by the calendar. So if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen.
So are you going to write it in the morning?
I'll do it.
Are you going to put on your calendar 15 minutes task journaling?
Yeah, I do all my journaling.
Okay.
So anytime that we do the action items, for me, it's almost always in the morning. But it's interesting how the ideas are sort of working in the background all day long.
Right.
Point. Yeah.
So I'm going to do the same thing. I'll probably do the first list of character traits tonight because I haven't done this yet. And then I'll journal at night. I'm going to try to add it to my calendar as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to do my pitch. I'm going to pitch a guest to swap shows. This is huge, but I'm going to try it anyways.
Podcast swap is good. Are we going to say who it is?
I'm going to ask. Yeah. Huh?
Do you want to say who it is?
I can. Ethan Suplee. He's the actor. He was on, he's not he's not a household name or anything, but he was on My Name is Earl. He was Randy, the Big Brother. He has a podcast called American Glutton. And he was on Dave and Doug's shows, which is how I realized he did a show.
Okay.
And he had Doug on because Doug is also in fitness.
Okay.
And so I'm going to pitch him, and he's also in recovery, Ethan Suplee. And so I'm going to pitch him to see if we can be on each other's shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, just ask. So, so for me, it's time bound just inherently by the 2 weeks. And then I want to suggest to the audience to maybe do yours before the Wednesday meeting. So you guys have 1 week I recommend do that scary thing before we meet on Wednesday to talk about this, so for me, that's mine. Specific would be that particular pitch plus the list and the writing. Measurable, did I do it or not? Right? Actionable, sending the pitch. Realistic, it's realistic for me to write this and spend this time. And then timely, we've got the 2 weeks to do it. So it's kind of built in.
Yeah. And time for me is like, when am I going to do it?
Okay.
So mine is in the mornings. And then,
okay.
I've had this idea that I wanted to reach out to Rich Roll and ask about like the book, because I want to get on podcasts before I'm done writing the book in case people have ideas or so I can get feedback so that I can include in the book. And so I thought it'd be interesting to go on before the book was done.
Right. Okay.
Because the audience can then contribute in a way.
Right.
But that feels like it feels to me like
that's huge.
I'm a huge fan. So it feels like a lot is riding on this, but
totally.
I have to remember that there's no one person that's in charge of my destiny other than me.
Right.
Yeah.
I also heard, and this is a super simplified way to kind of look at rejection, but it was helpful for me. This was unrelated to this particular topic. I heard it somewhere else. But okay, so say you want to ask for a raise. The day before you ask for the raise, do you have the extra money? No. The next day you ask for the raise. Say they say no. The day after that, do you have the extra money? No. Nothing changed.
You didn't lose anything.
No. The only thing that changed is you might attach some worthiness issues to the ask, but nothing is different. So if I ask Ethan Suplee and he says no, nothing will be different in my life. I can just not attach the loser feeling to the no.
Yeah.
Which again, is like super simple. It's like, duh, but it's still very hard to look at it that way. But that's why we write the traits, I'm still honest the next day. I still have integrity the next day. I'm still kind. I'm still empathetic.
Yeah.
I still have my self-worth the next day.
Absolutely. No, that's good. I love it. Yeah. Okay. So we have our tasks. Get to them. Go to the Patreon. Check out all our stuff. Come to the meeting if you can. And the purpose of the meeting is to get ideas from others on how to apply it to your life. And if you get stuck anywhere, as a group, we'll come up with some solutions.
We actually had our first live meeting this week. And because we've recorded content ahead of you guys hearing it. So we just had our first one and it was awesome. You guys, seriously, like the women that were there were great. It was so fun to hear people's different interpretations and manifestations of this information. I got so much out of it. And it was just a really rewarding hour on my Wednesday. You guys add the meeting if you can to this work as well. And I think you'll really be happy that you did. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you run up against anything, a story to share, like for this one, I would love to hear what you guys put yourself out there for, and then we can talk about it. And I just think I was really, I didn't know what to expect. And I was really happy with the turnout.
Yeah, I got such positive feedback afterwards.
You did? Oh, good. Awesome.
I was like, we are doing the thing we are meant to be doing.
Did your clients like me? I have to ask. Did they like me?
Loves you. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I have lots of people you could ask.
It's an okay you have. Everybody. It's a false negative belief. We're going to get rid of that.
All right.
All right, my dear. Well, this was really good. We gave lots of examples. Listen, this is the work for me.
Yeah.
We'll raise the level of our self-esteem. I've been teaching a self-esteem class for years, and the premise of the class is that we only allow into our lives what we believe we deserve on a subconscious level, which is why I do the hypnosis to change those subconscious beliefs, because we operate from that place. So this is so exciting. Thank you so much.
I know, this is awesome.
This was a great topic.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yay.
Good.